Hey, what's up, squad? From Root Suite, I'm Colin Smith, and you're listening to the Cold Ones podcast. It's a podcast with chilly questions and even colder ice cream. Today, we are joined by Brian Cotter. You know him as the global head of sales engineering at Seismic, being early at Zuora pre-IPO, and through his affiliation with the Acton Boxborough Boys Youth Lacrosse team. I hope I said that correctly. Sorry, Stage 2 Capital. Brian started his career as an SC at Meeting Makers and has spent time with some of the biggest Goliaths like Salesforce, like BMC, pretty much you name it. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks, Colin. I always appreciate an invite to literally have ice cream at any point of the day. So Ben and Jerry and I are really good friends. So definitely looking forward to today.
I will tell you, man, I don't know how much Ben and Jerry's is consumed in your town, but it was a little difficult to get some over to you.
Yeah, well, what you selected, they were out, so we had to go with Plan B, but I think it worked out well.
The best part is they didn't even ask. Yeah, they didn't even ask me if they could go with Plan B. They just showed up at your house with Plan B. Anyway, so with all of our guests, we strategically select ice cream. I don't just order it and send it to you. So I put some thought in. So we're gonna start off with our rapid fire personal questions, and that's ice cream one. And then we're gonna switch over to ice cream two. So I do want to share real quick. I'll actually, instead of sharing ice cream two, I'll share it when we move into it. But for starting things off, we've got the Ben and Jerry's American Dream. It was between this and the Tonight Show because I do believe as an SC, you're like a professional entertainer and presenter, and the Tonight Show is very much that. But I landed on the American Dream because ever since our first conversation, and really, I mean, we've known each other for over a year and a half now. It's stayed true the whole time. You are so passionate about revolutionizing pre-sales, their perception in the community, where they sit at the table, and how they relate to the buyer. And I think your involvement in changing an entire industry is in many ways the American dream. So that's why we picked American Dream for you, a little sentimental versus some of the silly ones. But let's get into it. Are you good?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. And
Got
you
your
are
ice cream?
in alignment on changing the world and the way that companies go to market by leveraging and leaning into sales enablement, buyer enablement, and how pre-sales teams can help drive that change.
Yeah, no doubt. I got my ice cream. Do you got yours?
Oh yeah, I got the full bowl. I've been accused of actually having too much ice cream in one sitting, so it's not a
No
problem.
such thing.
Yeah, I agree.
There's worse stuff to have too much of in one sitting. I don't think ice cream's it. All right, rapid fire. We're starting with personal. All right, what kind of car you live in? I know actually that's a pretty funny question.
I anything that's big, boxy, off-road, four-wheel drive, I love. But currently, right now, the new next generation, the Ford Bronco.
It's badass. And I believe you're being a little humble. I think you got the Raptor.
Yes, there's a lot of places that I want to go travel to, and I just need to make sure that I have the horsepower to do it. So yes.
I, I think you I think you'll be safe for at least a while. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Funniest celebrity encounter.
I was flying out of Boston with on Delta, and just throughout the years and having the Platinum American Express, you have the ability to go to the Delta Lounge, and I'm sitting there walking out of it, going to my flight, and I see Patrick Dempsey McDreamy, and literally I just walked by. I'm like, "Hey, Patrick, how you doing?" And I walked by, and I texted my wife. I'm like, "Yeah, I just walked by McDreamy." She's like, "Go back and get a selfie." So I literally stopped around, got out of the elevator, walked back, and as soon as I turned the corner, he's like, "Come on, let's get this done." And he basically grabbed my phone, took the selfie, and then away we went. So it was pretty cool. It was a nice guy, and he was actually from Maine doing he's got a foundation that he was doing some work up there. So it's pretty interesting to get to know him, but very friendly, and but it was hysterical. My wife was like, "Turn around now."
And you did it.
Yes. Well,
Lessons for unmarried guys. When your wife
yes.
says turn around and get the selfie, you turn around and get the selfie. All right. We're going to transition from the personal into professional. For this ice cream, where are we at? We got a little Twixaroo.
Oh yeah. So sorry about that. Hold on.
All good. You know why I got this one for you? Yeah, there we go. The commercial, man. I'm gonna send that to their team. They're gonna sponsor you. Cotter, I think when I look at you, when I hear about your Bronco, I know that you've got a tough exterior, but when I get to know you, you're gooey on the inside, man. You're just caramel. And so that's why the Twix, break it in half, show it to the audience. Not really. That's you, man. You're a Twix. You're a sales engineering Twix bar.
Not going to disagree with you. It's feedback that I've been given in the past.
I mean, you're a badass, but you're also gooey on the inside. All right, man. So I know you were at Zuora pre-IPO. Zuora I don't know if this is showing my age or showing that I started my career in medical device, but I actually first knew Zuora as just the greatest sales deck ever. I didn't even know what they did. I just knew that Andy Raskin article.
Yep.
I imagine you were there around the time of that being released, or at least when it was being used. Um, tell the audience, you know, did that deck like influence your career? Did it influence your time at Zuora? How'd you use it?
So it was an interesting thing. I started my career at like a little bit like in mid late 90s, but BMC was really about, this transition from managing a network operating center and going to the cloud. And Bob Beecham was a really big proponent of business service management. And then Mark Benioff at Salesforce for about 8 years was all about the evolution of the cloud and how it can become not just an application to a platform. And one of the things about Zuora, and the reason why I went there, is the whole notion of selling a SKU versus a subscription, and that morphing from you're selling a one point in time thing to a relationship. And the interesting thing about that deck is that out of all the things, it actually painted a really great picture. The world is changing. The way you go to market is done. People don't want individual interactions that they never know when you're going to come back. They want something that will basically predict your relationship over time. And that's why SaaS is so powerful and subscription pricing on cloud computing is so great. But the one thing that Teen Zhao did really well was he basically said, we are now in the subscription economy. It's all about relationships. It's happening. You're seeing, like, who would have thought NetJets would be a subscription? Who would have thought a refrigerator at Home Depot would be 30% less, but they're going to sign you up for a subscription so your fridge can talk to the mothership and say, you need firmware, you need this repair, and actually change the way that companies went to market. And also down to Amazon charging at the 1 second billing rate. It fundamentally changed the way that companies went to market in their story, but also fundamentally changed the way that they did pricing and packaging, the way that they acquired customers, the way that they could actually do, sorry about the balloons, but the way that they actually could do their billing, their collections, their revenue recognition, and understanding the patterns of behavior. So it wasn't just about selling a SKU to a subscription. It fundamentally changed the go-to-market that every single company had to look at differently. We're now entering into a consumption-based model of elements like Snowflake. But also we're going down to like an experiential or experiential type of relationship. It's like, what did the buyer experience? What did they feel? What did they do? So really, it's about the relationship, and that's what subscriptions are. And I think that was the powerful element. As far as what I take away from that, what is the human element of story, and how can it impact the person you're presenting to? Because life changes, and we're now seeing the consumerization of the enterprise B2B selling space. We need to sell differently. We need to interact differently. We need to guide the buyer along that sales journey.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how you see subscriptions being a very early, I think, leading indicator of what we're seeing today in terms of the consumerization. It used to be, like you said, you sell a SKU and you buy it, right? You bought the Microsoft 365 for the year or for however long you want to use it. And now we've transitioned to a subscription because I don't think enterprise led that. I think enterprise is a fast follower, but consumer brands have led a lot of that. Okay. So a question I like to ask everyone who joins the Cold Ones podcast is about preparation. I imagine you would have not gotten to where you are in your career if you weren't pretty bullish on preparation, especially as an SC with all the preparation you all have to do. Tell us what your New Year planning process looks like, professionally, personally. Like, how does Brian Cotter and the Cotter family, or whatever you want to share, prepare for the year ahead?
The It's a great question. It applies to not just work to life. So I ended up being a Division I collegiate kicker, and it was all about the 1 second that you get to perform. And the reason why I bring that up is that we all have moments that we get to perform, whether it's delivering a project, closing a deal, supporting a case that comes in from a customer that needs help. It's all about, are you ready for the moment? And I talk a lot about being unconsciously competent on your material. And part of it is like there's like 4 stages of adult learning theories, and at the end of the day, do you know your stuff so well that you don't even have to think about it when you're having a conversation? So that's the preparation, is really get better when no one's watching, is one of the key thing, which is what I had to do from my kicking career, and being able to perform at that level. The other part is I have an overwhelming fear of looking like an ass in front of an audience, professionally speaking, but that drives me to be over prepared for everything. And this is what I call situational fluency. If you are unconsciously competent, and if you do prepare, you can then actually take any conversation in any direction, and it's genuine because you're really listening. You're not thinking about the product, the features, or the situation. You're actually having a real conversation. And the other part that I kind of lean into my team is, do you have a framework for the story that you want to tell? Think about a thesis. What's the problem statement? What are the things you need to prove, and how you're going to wrap it up? Then how do you prepare the narrative so a person can kind of see their future on your platform, or they can understand that you've listened to them, and they really appreciate and trust you as far as the transparency, and they know that you're going to help guide them. And the other part is a full in character dry run. Don't show up to a dry run with 12 bullet points. Walk in, hi, I'm Brian, we're going to cover this, and walk through as if you're going to practice, because it's the only way that your team can give you real feedback, if they see how you're practicing, because that's a direct correlation to the way that you're going to play. So, as far as that goes, it's the same thing I talk to my kids about. What you put out of it is what you're going to get out of it. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
If you're not ready for prime time, and you're not willing to step on that field, you're not going to have a good outcome. And at the end of the day, this is something that should just be natural to you, because you've done the hard work, and you can now adapt and pivot and roll with whatever is thrown your way in a sporting event or in a business meeting.
Yeah, I think if you look at sports, great example, they spend 80% of their time practicing, 20% of their time playing. You think about like the day, and then the 6 days or 5 days. But if you look at like military, like you talk to like a Navy SEAL, right? They spend 80-90% of their time preparing, practicing, only 10% of their time in deployment on actual missions. It's interesting that I feel like in business, we don't, well, I won't speak, obviously you do, but I think a lot of us don't spend time practicing and preparing. We just kind of execute. And I think it's a nice reminder of how we should all take a step back and prepare and practice and dry run like you did in college. I mean, you did it in college. We all took those of us who went to college were fortunate enough to go to college. We probably took a public speaking class at some point. You didn't roll into the public speaking, speech on Friday, afternoon, just raw. No, yeah. Okay. That's a good piece of feedback. I'm gonna take notes on that. All right, so I'll skip over about the ingredient snail demo, because you kind of just walked through it a little bit. I do want to be respectful of time. 2 more questions I think we can jump into. Tell me about the wildest prospecting technique you've ever seen work, and why did it work?
So when I was at Salesforce, we were working with Avid Technologies, and they are basically a company that has won Oscars for their film editing, but they're also involved in a lot of news centers and new channels around the country as far as their video technology. And it went from, oh, we need to look at Salesforce for Salesforce automation, to, oh my God, it could help us across the whole go-to-market. And we had to gain buy-in from different people. So my AE and I, we did a 30-hour trip to California for a 35-minute meeting, and then flew back. But because the key person was actually living in California, that could literally connect the marketing side and the support side with the sales side. And we knew the only way that we could actually do it is to do our homework, go see her face to face, walk her through that we understood their problems, saying we didn't necessarily know what the solution was going to look like, but we were committed to actually do that. So it was about the preparation, the travel time, and when we were actually in the meeting, the ability to identify that we understood her business. We wanted to clarify a bit more to understand her real world and her real pains. And it was a 35-minute meeting, but it fundamentally changed the trajectory of what Avid became as far as a Salesforce customer. So may not be a prospecting, but I do believe prospecting never ends because we're no longer selling to one person, we're selling to many. And what you and I've talked about in the past, there's more buyers, they're smarter and they want more engagement, and every single one has a voice. You have to earn the right to politely challenge or politely validate their point of view. If you do that, you gain the trust and you become memorable beyond just what the product or the platform can do. And that memorable part means that you connected at a higher level.
I like that. You flew 30 hours for 30 minutes. Well done.
Yep.
And you could, and I'm sure, knowing CRM ticker, they probably got their monies out of that 30-hour meeting or 30-hour trip.
It was a good financial result. Yes.
Good outcome. All right. So when you think about your success, think about your career so far, what do you attribute it to? Luck or hard work?
So I have a phrase that's going to align this. I think luck, there's two different types of luck. There's dumb luck, lightning, hole in one, hit the lottery. But also part of it is luck is a controlled burst of skill, meaning you're ready when the opportunity presents itself. So I think it's a combination of you have to put the work in so you can evolve and become a master of your craft. And then it's not just waiting for opportunities to come your way, but raising your hand and leaning in when you see them. So we can't control everything in life, but we can't control how prepared we are. But if we see opportunities, we can lean in because we're ready. So I'll answer it by basically just saying, I do believe that luck is a controlled burst of skill. And that drives me to always try and be ready for when an opportunity presents itself where I can lean in or I can act or react in the appropriate way.
Dude, this is the second time on this podcast that someone has referenced the kind of preparation meets opportunity. That's
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey's quote. Such a good one. My uncle, I'll shout out my uncle Bud here. He says luck is labor under correct knowledge. So it's kind of similar, right? Like that preparation.
Yeah.
Like you have the correct knowledge and you're working, under that correct knowledge and preparation, luck happens. Um, BC, Brian Cotter, you made it. No brain freezes. I don't think you ate as much ice cream as I was hoping you did. I
Well,
probably
I've been known to take out pints of ice cream literally in like 7 minutes, so I didn't want to be shoveling in as I was talking to you. So I'm waiting. That's my trophy over there. So
well, enjoy the ice cream. Get a brain freeze for us. Thank you for your time. We're very grateful to have you on the Cold Ones podcast. And tell the audience, those who are going to be listening, what's going on in your neck of the woods over the next year.
Um, I think one of the things that we're seeing right now is there's a major focus on arming sellers to be the guides along the buyer's journey to deliver better experiences. And I think that is a fundamental area that you have to do because we are seeing the consumerization of the B2B marketplace. But there's also on the flip side, if you look at Gartner, sellers are with their buyers 17% of the time. And there's a whole push towards how can you deliver better experience? You can arm your sellers, but also how can you deliver better experience? Because 83% of the time, sellers are not with them. And you need to make sure you have your 3 to 5 points that you leave with your buyer so they can sell on your behalf when you're not with them. My focus and my goal is really leaning into what the world and the buyers are telling us. They want to be guided along their journeys. And we need to lean in saying we can help you when we're in person, but we also have a plethora of different information when we're not there across the whole buyer's funnel. So when I look at what I want to do and what's on my neck of the woods is, specifically about Seismic, but also just in general, how can companies really help guide their buyers above the funnel, through the buyer's funnel, becoming a customer and growing into an advocate? Because it's our job to make sure we put buyers in the buying motion in perpetuity, bouncing between the buying journey and the value journey. Pre-sales never ends, sales never ends unless you don't deliver. We live in a portable world. They can take their business, move it over to your competitors. So how do you take advantage of this new kind of buyer experience evolution? to make sure that you can always deliver value to your buyer. And really, that is really cool for me, because 20 something years ago when I started this whole thing, the sellers owned everything. They told you, here's your experience, here's your journey, here's your invoice, and it's a SKU, and they move on. The world is different, and to me that is extremely exciting, because it's fundamentally causing companies to change the way they go to market. And that is really interesting to me as far as how companies are going to take their teams to be able to do that in a better, more efficient, effective manner. But at the end of the day, it's about the buyer's experience.
Dude, I love that. I'm excited to see how you do that at Seismic, and maybe how you're able to help others as well. BC,
Cool.
appreciate you, boss. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.